When you play the Game of Thrones,
Subscribe and like.
you die. There is no middle ground.
Welcome back to the Grease Goblins YouTube channel. In today's video, we're going to talk about Cleganebowl and also the Hound as an extension of that, given he is the main character involved in a possible Cleganebowl happening. Now, this theory, I don't know how prominent it was in the books before the show really started ramping up on it. I know as somebody that was kind of coming into the Song of Ice and Fire community around season 5, season 6, in terms of reading the books, I know there was a lot of speculation that we were going to see Cleganebowl, the Mountain, versus the Hound. And in the books, that is also still largely there as well, but I think to a lesser extent. I think for the most part, a lot of people are not clamoring for Cleganebowl because it just doesn't make a whole lot of sense in the books, in my personal opinion. Because in the book, the Hound is a character that goes on this journey where we see him being this person that is fueled by anger, by revenge. He is really similar to Arya. That's why those two characters work off of each other really well. He is somebody that is deeply traumatized by war, by his family, the way that they treat him. He is somebody that is a broken individual. The whole idea of A Feast for Crows being the idea of what war does to someone is really exemplified perfectly in the Hound. And it's even more interesting given that in Brienne 6, when we do meet the elder brother, we also probably meet the Hound as well. Now, we don't actually physically meet him. Brienne doesn't go up to him and start talking to him, but we see what is likely the Gravedigger, aka the Hound. And in that chapter, the elder brother talks about how war can destroy a man, create him into some sort of beast, something along those lines. And that's perfectly exemplified in the Hound. And so the Hound at the Quiet Isle right now, he seems to be growing as a character, trying to find some sort of inner peace and disregarding that past version of himself that was motivated by violence and anger and trauma. And so when you have a theory like the idea that there's going to be a Cleganebowl, you inherently have to strip all of that away. You have to pretend like the Hound is still the exact same character. Now, other people have said, well, because he's with the Quiet Isle right now, maybe he's going to be motivated by religion, and that is how it's going to factor into getting this Cleganebowl in this trial, maybe for Cersei's innocence or guilt between the Mountain, aka Robert Strong, I'm going to refer to him as the Mountain, versus the Hound. The Hound may be representing the faith. Now, there's a lot of questions that get drawn up here is, if that is the case, if you're going to say the faith is the reason that Sandor gets back into fighting and fights his brother, the problem you have right away is, why would they do this? The Hound is somebody that has no real ties to the faith in King's Landing specifically. Yes, he seems to be recovering here on the Quiet Isle, but how does that equivalate to him being the champion for the faith against Cersei in one of the biggest trials in Westerosi history? Doesn't really add up, in my opinion. And then you also have to be thinking, would Sandor travel to King's Landing to fight some unknown warrior? Because remember, nobody really knows that Robert Strong is Gregor Clegane. Some people might be thinking he might be an undead version, but for Sandor himself, he has no idea what happened to his brother, really, outside of that he was fighting Oberyn, maybe got poisoned, all that kind of stuff. There's no indication from the character of the Hound that he would ever want to go to King's Landing again. You even think about the traumas that he's had there. There's no reason for him to go there, and there's nothing there. So in terms of the religion aspect of it, that he's going to be motivated by his newfound religion, all that kind of stuff, that relies on a lot of conveniences, in my opinion. And then the other alternative being that the Hound, maybe hearing that his brother, the Mountain, is possibly this Robert Strong character that is going to be representing Cersei in a trial by combat, and so that motivates him to go to King's Landing. It just doesn't make sense because it's a reversion of the character of the Hound. Now, if something was to happen to, say, the Quiet Isle, that makes the Hound revert to some version of himself like he was before, kind of like what the show did, but I think it's going to be vastly different. I think the Hound will be a much more transformed character than what he was in the show for basically an episode. So then you'd have the Hound going to the Mountain because of all these things that he's been battling with, and quote unquote has a relapse. The other part of that would be, why would anybody let the Hound into King's Landing? Especially if his presence is known. He is a war criminal at this point, regardless of what he has and hasn't done. He has disobeyed his king. In terms of the Battle of Blackwater, he did allegedly salt pans. That's what people believe, even though he didn't actually do that. He is a wanted criminal, an outlaw. And so there's no reason for him to put himself in that risk to then try to fight his brother. And so from just the point of view of the plot doesn't make any sense for him to fight Gregor Clegane in terms of the Cleganebowl that we've had foreshadowed. it also doesn't make much sense in terms of what we've seen the Hound probably growing into, the person that he's becoming. His, I think, arc is much more tied to Arya, the Brotherhood Without Banners, Lady Stoneheart. All of the themes going on with his character are more present in those plot lines. So why would we wrap him up in a plot line that has almost nothing to do with him outside of this past that he has with his brother? And again, it just seems like we're just continuing to do the same kind of stuff. We're not growing our characters. That's not what George does. So this is kind of a shorter video, and I wanted to give my general thoughts out there. Like, I just don't think Cleganebowl makes any sense in the book. And maybe we'll see the Clegane brothers fight each other, but I don't think it'll be in this idea of like a trial by combat. I think it'd be more of like, say the Hound is, fighting for one of these causes and they go up against Cersei and the two just like meet in battle or something along those lines. I just don't see it happening the way I think other people have speculated at. And also at the end of this video, I did want to say this will be the last video before the 25 Days of Winds of Winter Year 4. We have some guests on again for the event. We'll have Becky and also JC back for some of these predictions. For you guys that are maybe new or people that don't remember, in December, I basically daily upload. So you guys will have a Winds of Winter prediction video from the 1st of December all the way through to the 25th. And I hope you guys all enjoy those. Look forward to those. We're hitting a lot of minor characters, some more niche characters, because I'm just running out of characters to do. So next year will probably be a lot different. But I hope you guys all enjoy that event and in this video as well. And bye, guys.